This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Welcome. You're watching Living with COVID, your one-stop shop where we answer all your questions related to life in the time of a pandemic. Joining us on the broadcast, our panel of expert doctors. We have with us Dr. Ajay Patwari, he's a diabetologist and director at the Jharkhand Diabetes and Eye Center. We have Dr. Ajish. He's a consultant endocrinologist at the Promise Super Speciality Hospital for Diabetes and Endocrinology, joining us from Kollam in Kerala. We also have Dr. N. Senthilkumar. He's a chief interventional cardiologist at the Rana Hospital in Tiruchirappalli. So appreciate you doctors for being with us on the broadcast, for sparing the time of day. Let me begin by asking you, Dr. Patwari, about people with diabetes, its connection to the coronavirus, and what are the do's and don'ts for them?
Diabetic patients, as we know, they are more prone to infections, any type of infections. And during this COVID, what we have seen that the mortality and morbidity is much more in diabetic patients. Data emerging from China, US and many countries have shown that diabetic patients require more hospitalization and intervention, or any type of comorbidities that are more in diabetic patients. Even the mortality among diabetics are much more than the non-diabetic patients due to COVID-19. And one of the reason hypothesis that is put forward is that this COVID-19 virus has much affinity towards the ACE receptors, which are found in heart, lungs and kidney. Right. And these receptors are increased in diabetic patients. So the diabetic patients should have their blood sugar under control and we can lessen this morbidity and mortality due to this COVID-19 among diabetic patients.
All right, Dr. Senthilkumar, if I can bring you into the conversation, we try and answer questions that pertain to the new normal, the kind of precautions that people need to take as they get on with their lives. What are the kind of precautions that people who interact with a lot of different people on a daily basis take? For instance, people who run shops, people who are, vegetable or fruit vendors, or those who work in the hospitality sector or as delivery agents. What are the special precautions that these individuals need to take?
It's a very practical question which will be useful for everyone who's listening to this program. Actually, to simplify this question, I will answer this in 3 stages. Stage 1 is at the entry of the shop. Stage 2 is inside the shop. Stage 3 at the exit of the shop or at the billing counter. Stage 1, the shop owner should restrict the number of people entering the shop at a given point of time to prevent crowding. Next, at the point of entry, he should make sure that he checks the fever for everyone who enters his or her shop by using a thermal scanner. Number 3 is he should make sure that people entering his or her shop should wear the mask properly. I underline the statement, the mask should be worn properly. More importantly, he should maintain the hand hygiene before entering the shop. This is stage 1. Having completed the stage 1, that is at the entry of the shop, I'll go inside the shop. Inside the shop owner should keep the customers informed about maintaining the physical distancing between them and between the staffs and the customers. So physical distancing is very important. Another point to be highlighted is prevent touching the fingers on the face. That is very important. Having finished stage 1 and stage 2, we'll go to the stage 3, that is at the exit point or at the billing counter. Make sure that the billing counter is not crowded at a given point of time. It is better to digitalize the billing counter. So to simplify and put it in a nutshell, remember 4 P's. Right. First P is physical distancing. Second P is put your mask properly. Third P is proper hand hygiene. Fourth P is prevent touching the face by hands.
All right. So very interesting, couple of points that you must keep in mind when you are in fact going about your daily life. Dr. Ajish, considering the importance of social distancing that's been, talked about, what about people who are coming to OPD clinics or people who are in fact visiting doctors? What about attendants of patients? Should they accompany them? Are they allowed in clinics? in a bid where everyone's trying to prevent overcrowding. What do you recommend?
Like in the public place, the clinic or hospital, the social distancing and the personal protection are important strategies in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So we try to maintain social distancing in clinic and hospitals. So the ideal social distancing, if you say, it has to be around 6 feet or 2 meters. So we have to limit the number of people that is coming to the clinic or hospital so that to practically do the social distancing. So ideally, a patient alone has to come to the hospital, but we have to make compromise in situations like children or pregnant or elderly. In private clinics, the space is the major concern. We cannot accommodate all people, but in multi-specialty hospital, the patient numbers are more. That is the major concern.
Right.
I work in both the scenario. So in clinics, what we do is that we give appointments, we fix a time, the service blueprint is changed so that one patient is in the reception, one patient is consulting the doctor, and one patient is in the lab or pharmacy. And the attenders has to wait in the waiting area. In multi-specialty hospitals also, we have to arrange spaces where the attenders can wait.
Okay. Right. There's been a lot of talk about the coronavirus being transmitted via the air. There are many scientists who believe that it can happen. The WHO says it's also possible now. Dr. Patwari, can the COVID-19 infection be transmitted through the air? And if so, what are the kind of precautions or extra precautions that we need to be taking?
There have been some reports, data has been emerging of its airborne transmission. Recently on July 6, some 239 scientists from 32 countries, they approached the global body WHO regarding updation of its airborne transmission in view of the data which have emerged from the restaurants and fitness centers where transmission was possible via airborne. So in recent briefing by WHO, that is on 10th or 11th July, it says that those virus particles which are less than 5 micron, they do not settle on the ground but float.
Right.
And this may lead to airborne transmission, especially in closed rooms, crowded places, poor ventilation. So to avoid, we should avoid these closed environments, poor ventilated room, and specifically we should make our rooms more ventilated and arrange for some local exhaust, etc., to prevent this airborne transmission.
All right. So ventilation, in fact, is key. But, if I can very briefly, Dr. Patwari, ask you a follow-up question. How long can these particles remain suspended in the air and how far can they travel? And is an ordinary mask enough to protect you?
Basically, masks are there, but N95 masks are more better in preventing this small particles, and these particles can remain in the air for 3 to 5 hours, and they can also drift too far depending upon the flow of the air, the speed of the air, etc. So wearing up the mask in this place is also very important, and
right.
Of course N95 masks is very, very important in this.
All right,
scenarios.
So N95 mask is crucial, and what you're essentially saying is that these particles could remain suspended in the air for a period of 3 to 5 hours. So you have to be really careful, especially in closed spaces, and therefore ventilation is in fact key. That's very interesting, Doctor. If I could just bring in Dr. Kumar back into the conversation. How should patients who suffer from cardiovascular conditions manage exposure in workplaces? Should different rules apply to them? Should they be taking extra precautions? What would you recommend?
This is also a very practical question which will be useful for a cardiac patient. Generally, when we categorize the patients which we see day-to-day basis as a cardiologist, I will categorize the cardiac patients into 3 categories. Number 1 is patients with cardiac failure, that is the pumping capacity of the heart is low, and congenital heart disease, that is heart disease from birth, and valvular heart disease. This is category number 1.
Right.
Category number 2 is patients who have suffered a heart attack or undergone an angioplasty or a bypass surgery recently. Category number 3 is same scenario, patient who has suffered a heart attack or who has undergone an angioplasty or bypass surgery several months or several years before.
Right.
So these 3 categories, when we take category 1, that is cardiac failure patient, they are susceptible to infection, more prone. So the immunity of them, immunity power in them is low. So they should more meticulously, carefully follow the instructions, as I said, putting the mask, hand hygiene and proper hygiene is very, very important. Category number 2 is patients who have undergone an angioplasty or bypass surgery or who had suffered a heart attack recently. Definitely they should not rejoin their routine work at this point of time during the COVID-19 season, this pandemic. Category number 3 is patients who have undergone an angioplasty or bypass surgery several months and several years before. They should adhere to the precautionary measures which is to be followed during this pandemic.
All right. So precautionary measures, of course, have to be taken, and extra precautions have to be taken with anyone who is suffering from comorbidities. But, that brings us to the other group of people who are considered vulnerable. Dr. Senthilkumar, if you'd like to shed light on, elders, older people with comorbid conditions, what are the kind of precautions that they need to take at home or if they are in public places, even if they are visiting clinics or hospitals? Dr. Ajish, would you like to... Right, go ahead, doctor, and then I'll ask Dr. Ajish. Go ahead.
Yeah, generally, when we categorize into comorbid conditions, the immunocompromised and immunocompetent. Immunocompromised subsets of people are, as you said, elderly, diabetics, renal failure patients who have undergone a transplant, renal transplant or a liver transplant, patients who have had a steroid therapy, patients who are on steroid therapy, they are all immunocompromised state.
Right.
So they are in a situation where the infection is more prone to occur. So at that point of time, in addition to the regular precautionary and safety measures to protect themselves from this coronavirus, they should take other precautionary measures, like they should not go out of the house unless it is a must situation.
All right. Don't step out unless it's a must. Dr. Ajish, is there anything you'd like to add? What about patients who are above the age of 65 who have comorbidities?
Yeah, that is the main concept of reverse quarantine as such, because as the age advances, the immunity comes down, the coexisting illness like diabetes, heart disease, everything is going to go up. So they have to be very careful.
Right.
Before stepping out of the house, they have to check whether it is essential. If it is essential, wear a proper mask, wear the proper hand hygiene, everything you have to make sure before going out. That should be the key.
All right. So step out of the house only if you absolutely have to. We're going to take a very short break at this moment, but our panel of expert doctors will continue to be live with us on the other side. Do stay tuned.
Knowledge Partner, USV, your reliable healthcare partner.
Let your little light shine. Let your little light shine for the world to see.
Hello, MG. How was your day?
Great. How is it going with you?
It's a human thing.
The all-new 6-seater MG Hector Plus. It's a human thing.
Amazon Prime Day. Discover joy. Get great deals. Enjoy blockbuster entertainment and experience brand new launches, all delivered safely. Discover joy on 6th and 7th August. Amazon Prime Day. Deals, entertainment, new launches. Join Prime.
It's a new campaign that we've launched, Donate Plasma, Save a Life. You have to be a corona positive patient who's recovered to actually donate plasma. Why? Because you can save a life.
When you're giving a person's plasma which has antibodies, and these antibodies actually boost the person's own immunity.
आज प्लाज्मा बैंक शुरू किया जा रहा है, पर ये सक्सेसफुल तभी होगा जब लोग डोनेट करेंगे.
प्लाझ्मा दान करा की जेणेकरून आपण वाचलात, आपल्या माध्यमातून आणखीन काही जण वाचू शकतो.
कोई कमजोरी नहीं होती, आराम से कोई भी डोनेट कर सकता है. आधे घंटे का काम है, उसके बाद आप ठीक है. जो ठीक हो गए अपना प्लाज्मा जरूर डोनेट करें. प्लाज्मा डोनेट कर अपने भारत माता की सेवा करने का इच्छा पाया.
I'm really grateful to NDTV which convinced me to go ahead and contribute to this cause.
NDTV का बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ. मेरी वाइफ के लिए प्लाज्मा डोनर का जो है अरेंजमेंट करा. थैंक यू सो मच NDTV.
छोड़ के दिल तोड़ के ओ दिल तोड़ के हंसती हूँ मेरा वफाएं मेरी याद करोगी ओ फिर लो मुझसे आज निगाहें कदर मेरे बात करोगी ओ दिल तोड़ के।
Reclaim your mornings. Reclaim your newspaper. To get the Times of India, log on to wantmypaper.com.
At Trends, there's one thing we care about a lot. Your safety. We followed the highest safety standards to welcome you back. With flat 50% off on the latest styles, drop by, shop safely and get them talking.
Suno? Have you seen my phone?
अपना फोन छोड़ो, ये देखो टाटा स्काई बिंज प्लस। इसमें टीवी चैनल्स भी हैं और एंटरटेनमेंट एप्स भी एक साथ।
With one remote.
Tata Sky Binge Plus, smart set-top box powered by Android TV. दोनों टीवी चैनल्स और एंटरटेनमेंट एप्स के लिए बाय स्मार्ट फीचर्स और Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus Hotstar Premium, Z5 जैसे 7 प्रीमियम एप्स का 6 महीने तक का सब्सक्रिप्शन, ये सब सिर्फ 3999 में। लॉग ऑन टू tatasky.com now। इसको लगा डाला तो फुल फैमिली जिंगल आला।
तेरी फेवरेट फिर से डाल। माँ, रोहन की मॉम ने भेजा। नाइस नो? तुझे सेफ्टी का बिल्कुल ख्याल नहीं? Zomato है तो सेफ है।
Zomato Max Safety मतलब always safe. From the kitchen to your doorstep. Your Max Safety, our priority.
Welcome back. Let's talk a little more about home-based cardiac rehabilitation and, how it in fact works in a pandemic. There are several patients who are in fact, cardiac patients who are considered, to have several comorbidities. Would any of the doctors, Dr. Senthilkumar, perhaps if you'd like to take that on cardiac patients.
So, whether it is a home-based rehabilitation or hospital-based rehabilitation, whether it is during this COVID season or after this COVID season, it is our duty to protect this soft, tender and loving organ, that is heart, which is the symbol of love. I will simplify this answer with a mnemonic A, B, C, D, E. A for avoiding alcohol, B for balanced diet, C for cigarette cessation, D for divine and dhanam and drugs, E for exercise. A, avoid alcohol, B, balanced diet. Since during this lockdown period, people are inside the house and they tend to overeat and they tend to have snacks and junk foods. So to avoid junk foods, and they have to take nuts and green tea and vegetables and fruits. C is cigarette cessation, TIP rule for cigarette cessation.
Right.
Total cigarette cessation, immediate cigarette cessation.
It's very interesting that you talk about food supplements and fruits, etc. Dr. Ajish, if I can bring you back into the conversation, what about vitamins, food supplements? Is there anything that you prescribe or recommend people take to build their immunity against the coronavirus?
Since currently there is no well-established treatment or vaccines against COVID-19, so everyone is going to search for something called immune boosters. That means some vitamins or minerals or diet supplements that will increase your immunity. So several diet plans and several vitamins, minerals has been tried, like vitamin C, vitamin D, B-complex vitamins, zinc elements, all have been tried as a preventive measure or a treatment for COVID-19. Only there are some trials, clinical trials on vitamin D, which has been found to be beneficial in some patients with COVID-19. But by and far, the scientific data on these vitamin supplements or minerals on preventing or treating COVID-19 is lacking. So at the current point of time, we don't recommend vitamins or minerals for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19, but like any other viral infection, maybe a proper diet, good nutrient diet may help up your immunity and help up coping with the infection and recovery.
Dr. Patwari, is there anything you'd like to add about, things that you can take, ways that you can supplement your diet or your lifestyle in order to help you to build an immunity against the coronavirus?
Of course, diet has been talked about. Green leafy vegetables and citrus fruits, which are rich in vitamin C, that should be taken.
Right.
And the most important during this pandemic is stress factors, how to de-stress ourselves, because there have been reports of depression and people taking their life. So family support and should be there, because the people are losing their jobs, etc. And this is putting too much of stress. So yoga and meditation should be there, and family should support, and they should be together. The second thing is like diabetics and hypertension, they should monitor their blood sugars and blood pressure with the glucometers and blood pressure monitors at home, and be in contact with their doctors through video consultation or any means of communication nowadays.
And how frequently should, those suffering from blood sugar or high blood pressure, for instance, how frequently should they be monitoring their levels in a pandemic? Does it differ from what's ordinarily the practice?
Yeah. Because as I said, stress factors has increased, and even the diet has gone erratic in these pandemic situations due to being inside the home regularly. So we should monitor more frequently. Like what I said to my patients is like monitor blood sugars weekly during the pre-pandemic period. But now I said at least an alternate day they should do their blood sugars like fasting and after breakfast. And means like if they have a BP monitor, they should do at least one time BP monitoring and then report to us.
All right, Dr. Ajish, if I can come back to you at the moment, I know we've talked specifically about diets, we've talked about vitamins, but what about exercise? This is a bit of a double-edged sword, because exercise is something that every doctor recommends. Yet, every doctor at this time also recommends that don't step out of your house unless you absolutely have to. So exercise is a casualty in a certain sense in a situation like this. How do you recommend people keep up with exercise?
Yeah, because regular exercise is a key for any lifestyle diseases like diabetes, blood pressure or cholesterol. But the lockdown, quarantine, financial crisis, everything has got a huge impact on both diet as well as exercise. So diet, I will add one more thing, because the financial crisis, we have to stick down to, maybe everyone may not be able to afford an ideal diabetic diet or anything, but stick to the basics. Whenever there is a crisis, stick to the basics. Eat at the right time, eat in small amounts. That means instead of having 3 meals, we split it into maybe 4 to 6 meals, small quantity. That should be the key thing in diet. Exercise also, 30 to 45 minutes of regular exercise, home-based exercise should be the key in diabetes during this time of crisis. Maybe the small walking around the house, small jogging, skipping, aerobic exercises, that will be very useful at the time of COVID-19. During the lockdown, there has been a reported large number of hypoglycemias or low sugars, so because people will go into strenuous activities at the home like cleaning or maybe cultivation, things like that, they will go in for hypoglycemia. So only thing is that you have to stick on to the basics, have a regular timed exercise. That means 30 to 45 minutes a day, regular meal timings. That should be the key in diabetic management or any other lifestyle management during the time of this crisis.
All right, Dr. Senthilkumar, if I can come back to you at this moment, what about adherence to medication? How do you know that the medication that you're taking is safe, doesn't have side effects, and it's actually safe to have during a pandemic? Should all medication that you routinely take be reviewed once again by a doctor, or is medication generally safe?
Okay, there are 3 things which should be answered with this question. So on one side, diet, lifestyle and exercise is important. Drugs are equally important. As you said, any drug will have its side effect. It's not about the anti-diabetics or it's not about the drugs for the heart. Even a B complex will have a side effect. So the point to be stressed upon is the patient should not change or reduce or increase the dose or stop the drugs on his own, since he is not able to see the treating doctor or the treating diabetologist or the treating cardiologist. if he or she does not have any complaints, it is better that he continues the tablet unless he reviews with his treating physician or a cardiologist. This is point number one.
Right.
Point number two is, in case if he has any new complaints like giddiness, chest pain or breathlessness or any new complaint, he has to visit his nearest doctor. It is not that he has to go to a regular doctor. Since during this pandemic, he has to visit
nearest
any doctor
right.
who is accessible and available. This is second thing.
Okay.
Third thing is D. Remember 4 Ds. Drug is important. Drill in the form of exercise is important. Diet is important. Fourth is divine. Fifth is drugs. And sixth is doctor. So 6 Ds to prevent diabetes.
All right. So very interesting. It's been an interesting conversation. I think a lot of very specific recommendations that have been made by doctors and precautions that you should absolutely must take, at the time of a pandemic, especially navigating your daily normal life at the time of a pandemic. Thank you so much, doctors, for sparing the time of day and answering our questions so very patiently. Thanks so much.